So I'm Carl Cook, and I'm going to be teaching the BCS 102, the charter renewal process. Thank you for being here. A little bit about myself. I have actually been an ADC and a district commissioner back in the Greater Yosemite Council many years ago. Enjoyed my time there. Most recently, over the last several years, I have been a scoutmaster for a couple of different units. So for those of you who know, I used to be a Fox and a good old Fox too. So if you have your chat there and you've been to Wood Badge, if you want to go ahead and pop your critter in there, that'd be fun to see that. So, and I think in our session, we have John from Hawaii, and I just happened to bring up, I do happen to have, let's see if it'll bring up there, my Aloha Council CSP. It's one of the most beautiful ones I've ever seen, a beautiful turtle on there. So I love Hawaii and opportunities to be there. So, all right. Fox and beavers and bobwhites, an owl. So I had a good friend who went to Wood Badge and was a bear the first time and went again the second time and was an owl. So he always said that he was a bowel. So, all right. And if you haven't been to Wood Badge, if you will share what your favorite ice cream is or your favorite dessert if you don't like ice cream. And I would imagine for most of us, we could probably, and for those that do want to comment and come off of mute, I'm sure that it'd be a great time for interaction. The charter renewal process sometimes can be a little bit boring, so hopefully we can make it as interesting as possible. So before we get started, I'll see chocolate minus the chocolate bits, bear both times, nice. So Cherry Garcia, that's a good one. My ultimate favorite is Death by Chocolate, so I enjoy that one. All right, before we get started, I'd like to show some of the resources. And I hope all of you have seen this and know where to go. So on scouting.org, we have some great resources here for the commissioners. And I hope that you've had the chance to come in here and take a look at what is available here. And for this particular course, the nice one here is right here on Charter Renewal Resources. This is a perfect place to come to be able to help assist with units. There is also a nice little spot down here where you can see that charter renewal. I hope that you're able to see my, I hope you're able to see the website that I'm showing. So great resources there from the Charter Renewal Resources. There's a lot of resources here. We'll actually hit a couple of these different ones here just to let you know this is where a few of those will be coming from. I'll be able to drop them in the chat too, but there a lot of these resources here, the user guide, this charter renewal calculator, the guidelines, and this December recharter timeline. So we'll be kind of hitting these. The other thing would be this great training video right here. So this training video is a great resource for units to be able to follow along and find out how to be able to do that charter renewal. Now, for me, the charter renewal process used to be in paper, and as commissioners, we would go pick them up from the unit, and we would go get them from paper and we would take them to the council. That was back in the day. So the new charter renewal process is much more simple than that. And we can go ahead and start moving through that. So here's our little course objectives. A couple different things there. We can move on. I'll go ahead and move on here. So the charter renewal process is primarily the unit's responsibility. But sometimes that's a tough task for them and they need some help. And I think when we're talking about our commissioner roles, the commissioner role that this really falls in mostly for us is the coaching part. So we're there to be coaching, be coaches and a resource for them and be able to help them through the process. So as we go through, that's our main responsibility is to help them with that. So here's a quick little timeline, but this is available there on the Commissioner resources. And it has 3 different steps here. And there's actually a 4th step that we'll be covering, and we'll cover that. And that's the first one. The first step is to review the recharter resources. And this is something we're going to go through each of these different steps in a little bit greater detail. But that 4th step I'm talking about is going to be the charter presentation, and that can fall on us as commissioners also. All right. So the first resource that is very helpful is found on that commissioner resource page under the charter renewals. And this is that calculator. So you can take this, it's a little Excel spreadsheet, and you can take the time that it takes, wherever each council is a little bit different as it comes to their renewal timeline. And so you are able to take that timeline for your particular council and drop it in here, and it'll actually backdate all these for you. It's a little backdater, and it'll tell you, okay, when do we get started on these different things, and be able to start planning that process and going through each of these different stages. All right, so stage 1 is the charter prep, and this starts 3 to 4 months out. And we get those things ready. We start talking to our units and helping them to understand, what's going on, what challenges might you have this year. Start getting their JTE organized so that they're ready to submit that. So it's not the last minute trying to wonder, what is it that we're trying to figure out? How many campouts did we go on this time, and what service projects did we do? We can start putting this together now. And one thing to do is to identify who in the unit is going to be responsible for that. Some units don't know that. At the end, they're just like, we better have somebody to take care of this. But to identify somebody who, okay, this person is going to be the one who's going to take care of that. A lot of times it falls on the committee chairman or the COR sometimes in some circumstances. But somebody needs to be able to utilize that and be able to be identified for that. And then start those different steps that are right there. All right, stage 2 is 2 to 3 months out. Start to make sure that the YPT is done. That's, I think, a really key one. We're going to talk a little bit about the what are they called? The problems that you have when it comes to renewing. There's going to be those things that pop up at the end. A lot of them are going to be like YPT training, making sure that that's complete, making sure that you have all these different items in line, and start collecting those fees. All right, and then that last stage is the council process. So once we've gotten this off to the council, then the council is the one they're going to go through all of that and take care of the processing on their side. All right, then this is going to be the stage 4 part. And this is where another opportunity for us to be able to step in as commissioners and maybe set a time when we can go to each of their units, be able to present them with charter. So each member, I think of the key 3 can print this, but you as commissioners are able to print this also and be able to present that to them. There's different times you could do that. You could set up a specific time. We could do it on like a Scout Sunday or other type of activity that you find is appropriate for that unit. The membership cards can be downloaded and printed. That can also be done by the unit leadership. But if it's something that you want to do, is to be a big part of that. And sometimes it's good to make a big deal about this and be able to utilize the opportunity to go out to your units and be able to talk with them and meet with them and let them know how much we appreciate them as units, and to be able to congratulate them on another year of charter. All right. So are there any questions so far about maybe our roles as commissioners in this process? So let's take a look at it. So there's a new process that's now in place. And so this user guide here is a great resource to be able to take a look at, and basically walks you through the process. And so if your units are struggling with this, make sure to bring this up to them, and they're able to see this and utilize that. It'll walk you through. But let's take a look at this. One of the nice things about the new Internet Advancement is that it comes through my.scouting. It's through the Internet Advancement section. So there's a couple of different ways to go to it, through just your my.scouting account or through advancements.scouting.org. And the nice thing is it utilizes your own my.scouting password and username, and that makes it really nice. Instead of the olden days where we used to have those, you had to have the special username for it, you had to have your unit IDs and all these special things that are part of it. So it's much more easy now, and much more convenient. So majority of the work is done on this screen right here. And I'd probably say 85 to 90% of it is done here. And so a lot of these things are really important to check. This is this is the main opportunity to make sure everything is correct. We want to make sure that their roster is updated. It gives you the opportunity to check whether the youth protection is done for the adults. You can specify that criminal background check, that part of that right there. Do your scouts want to have that Scout Life magazine? Adding new members, and deleting those that are not going to be renewing. Also on the multiple manager, to manage the multiple registrations position is great. And I think there is a section where we get to talk a little bit about how to fix that and make it a lot easier if you have multiple registrations within your unit. Obviously, the only ones that can be multiple would be your COR. They could also serve as a committee member and that type of thing. But for those of us, especially as commissioners, sometimes we are registered in our unit, but we also registered on the district level or the council level. And so with that, this is a way to be able to manage that and make sure that we're staying registered in those places that we need to, and only need to pay that fee once. So, all right, from this screen, this is where you're able to manage that and mark them as a multiple person and be able to put that in there. Let's see. For those that are multiple from like a council position, you want to select that they're a non-unit position. And as I already mentioned, the chartered organization rep is really the only one within the unit that can serve in multiple positions. And I think it's only as a committee member also. And then so right here, here's the screen for that, is being able to select what the unit type and where you're going with that. All right, and then the payment screen obviously is an important one, and there's a lot of different options to do here. Credit card payments and ACH are ideal ones to do, because what that does is once you've paid that, and your charter is, or the unit's charter rather, is, if that's already paid, once it's been processed, it can automatically renew. And that's a great option versus if you are paying by check, taking it into the council, sometimes there's delays that can happen with that. So using some of those electronic payment methods are most valuable. All right, and then the final step is the approval process. And so it gets sent to the key three delegate, and they need to approve that. And it's obviously preferred if there's approval by the COR. And the reason for that is your COR may not necessarily have a direct relationship with the unit per se. Sometimes they act a little aside from the unit. The unit kind of runs independently from them. And so being able to utilize that COR in a capacity that it keeps them involved and helps to make that connection with your charter organization is a great opportunity for them to do that. So it is possible that other people can approve this, but sometimes getting that COR to do it is a great opportunity. All right. And the nice thing is once it has been submitted, or at any point in time, we can take a look and see where it is in the process. And this is something that we can take a look at from a standpoint of I think it's in the Commissioner tools. We're able to take a look at that and see where we're all at, be able to see, what kind of things might be hanging up different units in their recharter process, and being able to help them where needed and coach them and find out where we might have some of those sticking points. So, all right. So defects. So this is what I was thinking of earlier. The name I was thinking of was defects. So there's a lot of defects that could cause some issues as it comes to a charter renewal being delayed and not being able to be processed properly. And we don't need to go through all these. I think a lot of them are pretty self-explanatory. And making sure that key 3 has the approval in there. And I think youth protection is always one that we're wanting to make sure we're keeping up on top of. So the key leaders that are part of our charter renewal are obviously the key 3, the committee chair, the unit leader, and the COR. That renewal processor isn't an official position, but as I mentioned at the beginning, that we do need to have somebody there that is going to be designated as that, whether it is a member of the key 3 or is just a parent that we want to keep involved, somebody who's be able to help with that. And us as commissioners, it is vital for us to be able to help out where needed. All right, and who plays what roles and when? I'm going to bring up leader roles. And we're going to take a quick look at this. And this is also, I believe, available on all right, hopefully you can see this. But basically it has a nice layout of who does what. I think for the most part, we're all pretty familiar with the process. But there is a nice little document here that has some of the things that are part of that. All right. So what are some of the potential consequences of not completing our renewal on time? So let's go ahead and either come off mute and let's talk a little bit about this. So what are some of the potential consequences of not being able to meet our charter renewal on time?
Not being able to advance boys or girls in the program in rank.
I think that's in my opinion, that's probably the most important one, because there's a lot of them, they have to have that specific time frame. And if all of a sudden there's a lapse in there, anything that's done within that time frame doesn't necessarily count, and they miss out on like the leadership and the different time frames that they have to meet on that. That's a great one. That's one of the most important ones. What other ones do we have?
The biggest one is if you don't get it turned in on time, you're going to have to start over from scratch.
Yes, and that is a pain in the neck, isn't it? So that is another big one. So what are things we can think of?
The unit loses insurance basically after a certain date.
Absolutely. Yes, that the liability there, that it gets dropped. How about from a commissioner standpoint? Is there something that happens when you have a unit that drops off? Think of some of the duties you're supposed to do. So one of them is you're not able to log unit visits for them. So that's one thing that drops off. You're not able to keep track of their JTE, things like that. A unit may lose their historical significance. Some units have been, they've been around for 50 more years. So that drops off. I mean, that's something that could be worn as a badge of honor, but we lose that. That's something that can pop up. Anything else we can think of? All right. But as we can see, it's very important, right? It's something that is very important. We want to make sure that we're keeping on top of it, making sure we're tracking it for our units, making sure that if there are any issues that we're able to help address that before it really becomes a problem. So with this, the chartered organization is the one that's, it serves the youth and wants to use the programs of the BSA to serve those youth in the local area. And so the annual unit charter agreement between the chartered organization and the BSA council and the unit can be done before or after the membership renewal step. It's recommended that annual charter agreement be completed prior to the recharter system being open, so that there is going to be a commitment by the charter organization and to be able to continue scouting, that scouting unit. So within this chartered agreement, there's a couple of things that people are agreeing to. Number one, so you have the local council, which is agreeing to provide the scouting resources and the adult leadership. The chartered organization agrees to conduct the scouting program consistent with the BSA rules and support the scouting units, the scouting unit committee, and to provide use of facilities. And then the scouting unit agrees to the registration and administration. They provide the program. They're responsible for the use of the facilities and then managing the assets and the equipment. So the charter organization, the COR, the unit committee chair, and the local BSA council, they all sign that charter agreement. And the annual charter agreement doesn't need to go in with the charter, but the charter renewal, but the unit does need to know that it's a step in the process for the charter renewal and that the unit won't be considered complete until that is signed and submitted to the council. So that's one step that's pretty important in that process. Charter renewal resources. So with that, there's a whole bunch of different ones, and we did go to that scouting.org scenario, where you could find that each of these different options here. There's a lot of resources that are available for the unit charter, which is a great thing that has been they've done a very good job of bringing a lot more resources in, where in the past it has been a little bit challenging sometimes to find some of these and to get some help that we need. You really need to find somebody who, before, that really understood the process really well, be able to get it done. And now there's a lot of resources that are available. So let's see. So a few takeaways that we have is to get started early and to start meeting with those units and finding out what needs they have and address with them the needs that they have, and see if there's going to be any issues that we have as we move forward with this process, and making sure that there isn't anything that's going to be delaying this charter process. And let's see here. And then obviously making sure that we've completed all those charter items and getting that submitted before the deadline. So for those of you that have been part of the recharter process, either as a commissioner or on the unit level, what challenges have you found with regard to the renewal process, and maybe how you've overcome those, or maybe you have questions on how we can overcome some of those things?
So one of the challenges that we've been having lately is a very high turnover of adult leadership, and also of chartered organization, the executives of the chartered organizations, because that basically have to resubmit the form. So that's caused us about 3 or 4 of the units. That's caused a huge issue. It's not known that you have to resubmit for your chartered organization if you change your district executive. Your chartered organization executive. That threw quite a few of our units for a loop when that happened.
Mm-hmm. That's a good comment. Any other challenges that we've seen as we've gone through the charter process? How many of you as commissioners assist units with the recharter process? I know a lot of my experience has been that as a unit, sometimes we've just been on our own.
Where my pack at the moment is going through a change of chartered organization. I guess the biggest issue that we've faced so far, because the paperwork would appear to be pretty straightforward, is just questioning by the new chartered organization's legal team about things like insurance, and people at our council, our DE and the field director, just not having the answers and really screwing the pooch on us. For example, recently when they gave a kind of a dog's breakfast of an answer that didn't help anyone really understand what was supposed to go on. So I guess, to your point, is really understanding what the process is and being able to share and help that. So, I'm going through it at the moment, and I'm a unit commissioner, so hopefully I can help out others in the district. And we have other units, our district commissioner, who we've looped into the conversation, so he knows and can pass on that information as necessary.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah, I'd like to jump on that and see if there's best practices, because out here in Hawaii, the diocese has said that it is no longer going to allow its churches to be charter organizations. So that's and it just suddenly caught us off guard. So we've got probably about 20% of the troops are now having to find new charter organizations. And just if there's a good best practice for shifting to a new charter organization, if anybody knows that.
Yeah, that's an important thing. And it's something that I think a lot of us have gone through at some point, especially when there's been a couple of churches that have left the scouting charter process, and it's something we have. And I think that I think one of the best resources to reach out with would be your district executive. They are the council's representative for your area. I think they'd be one of the first stops to go to, and being
Carl, I have a solution.
Go for it.
Our troop was with the Elks Lodge here in St. George, and nationwide, the Elks Lodge had to do the same thing that the churches did. They had to not put their name on a charter. So we ended up finding a nonprofit organization here in St. George who chartered us. So that might be a solution, John, for your situation.
Yeah, thank you. We've got the organizations. It's just more of a, I hate to say the smoothest administrative way to do it. Because unfortunately, we are finding charter organizations, but it's just administratively the hangups that you guys are running into.
Yeah, I think working with that district executive, I think that'd be the first stop, I think, and they might be able to give you some more resources on how to accomplish that. But I think most of the ones that I have worked with, they have the great resources when it comes to that to help to make that connection between the council and that charter organization.
Isn't there a point now where the councils can be a charter organization as well?
I'm not aware. I don't know. It's possible.
The councils can be. The only issue is that then all the property of that pack or that unit become council property versus it being the charter organization. So I know that's why some troops are kind of leery of wanting to do that route.
I know here in Wisconsin, we've faced that, and we faced that in our district. Our local Catholic churches are allowing units to take all of whatever they had, troop trailers, pet trailers, whatever equipment they had, they're signing it all over to them, allowing them to take it to their next charter. They are also setting up, signing off-site paperwork for the units to continue to meet on their facilities. But our local veterans groups have been signing up to charter all of those, so those troops and packs are not lost.
We've also reached out to our local fire departments too. I know both troop and pack had to recharge the disaffiliation with the church, and they were able to affiliate with local fire department, who then was their charter organization.
Great. Great ideas. So any other questions or comments on the recharter process? Has anyone been able to utilize the new process? Because I know this last year was the first time that was available. So John, you mentioned you mentioned you used it. What was your experience with it?
It was the first time I did not have any hiccups with rechartering. I was able to finish my rechartering in about 2 hours for 2 units. It was really smooth.
Nice. That's good to hear.
I think the only hookup I had is that there was a mess up again with we had changed the district executive. I'm sorry, the executive for the charter organization. So we had to go back and resubmit some paperwork. But other than that, it was very, very smooth.
Excellent.
Yeah, I'll say the same. We have nearly 100 kids, and a whole boatload of leaders in our pack, and yeah, within an hour, easily we'd done everything. And for us, the biggest hiccup was in California. You have an additional law looking at youth protection that all California sporting, any organization that has adults facing youth for a protracted period of time, the leadership always has to do a course called AB 506. So it's kind of like a bit more YPT training. And that's mandatory. The council's made it mandatory that all adults have that as well. Registered adults have that as well. And that was getting them all to do that, which includes a live scan, fingerprinting stuff, was probably our biggest hiccup. But the software, the system, piece of cake.
Yeah, but that's a one-time deal. Thank God. We don't have to renew it.
That's correct.
So I think we're down to the summary section, and within the summary, went past. So basically, there's 3 main things to be able to, when it comes to going through the recharter process, is to make sure that we've identified the time frame and the stages that are part of that, getting those key leaders to work together to make that happen. And then obviously with those potential consequences, making sure that we're addressing all those defects, making sure that there's not going to be any issues when it comes to it. But beyond that is the end of the presentation. And thank you so much. Is there anyone else that has any comments about the recharter process that they would like to discuss or go over? Or any comments about how, your history in the past with that? Or maybe some suggestions on how we as commissioners can also assist with that process? Well, thank you so much for your time. We can go ahead and probably head back to the main meeting room and chat there. And I do appreciate the time that you have taken to come and learn about this process and how we can help our units to succeed, and appreciate it. Thank you so much for your time.